This podcast contains descriptions of extreme violence, body horror, and adult language. Please check the description for details. Viewer discretion is advised. So, when we last left off, you, Vex, had just had a pretty significant moment where you had gone to speak with Stitch and get to the bottom of what was up with everything with your body. It has been consistently strange and different and just completely out there. After the fight with the They of Clay contingent that had taken over the tower, you had Stitch look at some of your blood vessels and discovered that they were essentially another nervous system. And upon opening you up, found out your heart is stark white, confirming that something happens to you in the same or similar vein to Hope, the woman from your memories, from your dreams, and from the files that you recovered from Garrett Carpenter. We return a little time later to Vex strolling out of a particular shop, a place known for cybernetics. You had in fact recently been given essentially a free stop by some of the highest end, stop by this shop for some of the highest end stuff that you could ask for from the collectors, and you have you very much took advantage of that. You kind of stretch a little bit, getting a feel for the new upgrade, before you kind of resolve that you have a lot to do, a lot on your list. What would you say is currently going through, what's going through your mind as you kind of stroll through some of these darkened and claustrophobic alleyways and enclosed hive streets, as is so common for the city?
Well, I think she feels a vague sense of satisfaction from that anyone would feel from making a pricey but much needed new purchase, and that goes along with her kind of Vex woke up this morning with a kind of odd kind of determination, because as opposed to the usual drudgery, she now has a very singular goal fixed in her mind, or at least a nebulous goal, but a direction to pursue. Up until now, she has been trying to figure out what's been going on with her past as kind of just half curiosity, half as just some means to break up the routine and to focus on something. They've still felt like distractions or indulgences, but with everything that's happened, particularly the previous day, since I believe that was yesterday, shit went down with Stitch, yes?
Yes, that is the previous day. So we're now actually on the sixth day of the week right now. It's early in the morning. You decided to get up fairly freshly and sort that out. Sort yourself out, yeah.
Especially with what happened with Stitch. She's realized that this is something she not only wants to figure out, but might need to figure out sooner than later. She wants to get to the bottom of this. she's already experienced some consequences for doing so, but fuck it at this point. So, the first thing she wants to do, having now sorted out this new upgrade she's had her eye on, is to, while she's still in collector territory, she wants to, probe around for any kind of shops or scrap centers or whatever she can find that look like they deal with this kind of thing, which I imagine that many do. Just looking for any information she can on the specific kind of the gadget that she got from Garrett, or Garrett's body rather. Getting more information on that, and even more specifically on what kind of connector or modulator she can use for the connector to actually get it to fully work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, that is most certainly a easy one to do a little investigation into, especially in the area that you are in right now. We may as well, since it's been a while, it's been a second for us, and I think it's always good just to kind of recenter exactly where we're at in terms of leads and stuff. Just I think everybody appreciates it. So we currently, and remind me if I'm off or I've forgotten anything, but I'm pretty damn certain that currently there's of course the gadget which you are looking for the proprietary connector for, or some way to connect it one way or another, which is somehow related to the disc that you also recovered from Garrett's body, which it is worth noting, you did actually talk to Stitch yesterday at the end of everything about getting him the information that was on that disc, and he very much made it clear that he doesn't want you to shoot it over email like you did with some of the images, and there was a lot of medical jargon in there that was so far beyond you. Would it be fair to say that just on your way out this morning you dropped that off to him?
Yeah, I was gonna say if not literally on her way out, she could she would have done that as soon as possible. So if on her way out at the latest, maybe even the previous night, if she was feeling up for it enough, she would have sorted that out immediately. She has taken the disc just in its entirety to him, and told him, obviously kind of paranoidly, saying do not let anyone see this, don't talk about it, don't say anything you see in it, and obviously he knows all of that, but yeah, it's always good to reiterate, that is for certain. You also think, as you are walking and kind of making your way to these places, you remind yourself of, on your way out of the tower, you had pointed out to you and you ended up spotting an interesting individual, someone who was poking their head out of a manhole cover very nearby and watching the proceedings as you left the building, who themselves appeared to be albino in exactly the same way, although albino probably doesn't really work at this point as a descriptor. He was stark white in every regard, completely devoid of any color. That person, there is no way that they are not somehow related to this or don't know something, and if they aren't, well, that's a hell of a thing to talk about one way or another. There's a couple of people you could approach about that. That is another thing to look into. The other thing, it seems that a lot of this seems to be tied, or at least has the vibes of Section C you have kind of said out loud, so you kind of have decided to start knocking some heads in Section C if that comes around. You also found the key on the outer no man's land, buried by the tree, and you had the memories of the succession of apartments that you were standing at, and which were on the way to that phone, which has been so significant to you. The apartment complex also had brass numbering on the doors, which you have been told is significant. Eferai
has informed you that the diary is a cipher of some form. And there is also the 3 locations which have been marked by black pins on the map for you, Iris. Oh, you know what, actually, this is something that I should clarify, because I think this actually fell through on the edit of the last time you talked to Eferai. When you talked to Eferai, you mentioned the brass numbers and fittings that were on the doors of your memories. And he informed you that those were from the oldest parts of the city, the oldest, like, buildings and places that were, like, nearer the bottom of the city, and as such are the most, like, densely packed and densely populated because they've had so much built on top of them. And I did actually, at the time, mark those 3, or I marked 3 locations, and that is what fell through in the edit. So just so you know, when I'm referring to these pins, that is what I'm talking about, dear listeners. But yeah, no, the places, those particular places are probably going to be very difficult to search through, but they are going to be a better place to start than any.
Yes. She very much has all of these things in mind. First and foremost, she's going to be looking at trying to get information on the actual CRT gadget, and I'm now noticing too that one of those black pins is in collector territory as well, so maybe she could do that on the way while heading towards that.
So this is where we are actually gonna start really getting into, we're kind of in this new section of the game where you have a lot of leads, you have a lot of stuff to investigate, and you have a lot of places that you can go. And we're now operating on a much, like, wider time scale. We've been very, like, day by day up to this point. But a lot of this stuff is a lot of investigation. And so, here is how this is going to work for you. Each of the things that you're going to look into is going to take, at minimum, 1 day at a time. Some of them might take a short enough time to be half a day, but like, it's not going to be a short process one way or another. So what I'll tell you right now is that if you want to go and try and hunt down more information about this gadget, that's going to be like a half-day endeavor, because you've got to check multiple places, and then I will give you some information about it. The other things, which is, as you said, searching these areas, you will be able to search either as a half-day or a full day, but you are going to have, like, a varying amount of information depending on whether you do half or full. And each time you do a full day of investigation in one of these 3 possible locations, I will, like, tell you at a certain point when you are, like, how much of a likelihood you think you're gonna find it. And at one point, I will just tell you, I can't tell you, like, how many days it takes for each location for you to confirm if it's not there or if it is there, but, like, let's say you hit the 3rd day on one place, I might go like, okay, it's definitely not here, you have started doing circles. But it might be 4 days, it might be 2 days. Only way you will know is by continually dedicating time. If you get somebody to help you, which you do have somebody involved in helping you in the form of Eferai, then you could most certainly speed up the process, but it is not going to be a short process.
Yeah, I think what she'll probably do is, at the end of each day, she'll send Eferai a kind of, like, you know, a brief, like, 1 or 2 sentence email basically saying, like, where she searched and what she's found, if anything, you know. Probably most of the days it'll be searched around this area, no, you know, nothing yet. So, like, and literally that's it. But she'll at least keep him in the loop, and, you know, if he offers to get involved personally, then sure, but yeah.
So do you want to just say that you threw him an email this morning? Of where you're going to be checking out?
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
Alright, in which case I'll introduce the mechanic with Eferai. Eferai's a busy guy. He's got a lot of hands in a lot of pies, and he will not always have the time to be able to look. So every time you ask him on a given day, I'm going to ask you to make a roll. You currently are sitting at just baseline normal D10 roll. If you get a 6 or better, he will be able to help. Could you hit me with that D10, please?
Yeah, this is also what I have to do for scheduling these recording sessions with Sab. Hey, well, look at that.
Oh, beautiful. I will say that 10 even represents that tomorrow you will have a +1 on the roll to see if he's available.
Cool.
He basically like types back and he's just like, I can't resist. He absolutely does :3 faces at the ends of his messages, like just interspersed, and has like, it's always a 3 mouth, and he just alters it with like less than symbols and like lowercase c's to like convey different emotions and stuff like that. He fully leans into the cat aesthetic.
Vex isn't sure if this is some kind of code that she just doesn't understand, but just ignores it for now.
But he sends you an email back pretty swiftly, and he's just like, "You're in luck. I happen to be free today, and I'm hungry to find out more about your little situation. Do you want me to investigate a place you're not at, or do you want me to come with you?"
I think she would respond with one of the to investigate one of the others so that they can cover more ground.
Okay, would you like the one in Foundling or Section C territory for him?
I think that Vex thinks that just with how things have been lining up, that the Section C one is, not for any concrete reason, but at least subconsciously a bit more promising. So she'll send him to the Foundling Creed one so that she can potentially be the first one to investigate the Section C one.
So he's going to be sent to Foundling Creed, and we will signify that he's looked into it by doing a 1 with the eyeball. So one day of investigation has been put towards the Foundling Creed territory. You have yourself the decision to make of, do you want to split your day between investigating the Collector territory, or do you want to just dedicate today to just looking into the gadget?
I think she would spend half a day looking into the gadget, and then the other half day looking into the apartment in that area, because this being the first day of investigation, she just wants to feel like she wants to keep moving. Okay, so the Collector territory location, we'll get into the gadget in a moment, but the Collector territory location does have an effect, and I'll tell you straight out. Investigating each of these locations has a different effect according to which one it is. The Collector one is that this is the most maze-like. So dedicating a half day to this one, unfortunately, means that you have a much more severe penalty to this roll I'm about to ask you to make. So right.
I need to ask you to make a D10 roll with a -3 to it. Normally the rule is that if you dedicate a half day to investigating one of these locations, you have to make a D10 roll, and if you get above a 6, then it counts as a day of investigation. And if it's less, then it doesn't. So this location is basically asking you to spend a full day or get fucked, basically. So I believe you're going to need to get with a -3.
A 9 or 10, basically.
Yeah, 9 or 10, basically. But roll it for me, please.
Oh, man. That's unfortunate.
Okay. You do your best to do a little of scouting and do a little looking around. But man, this place... Like, there's a lot of mental maps that you've developed of many places in the city. And much like Kowloon, the walled city from the real world, every single person in this place has their own version of a map in their head of the places they frequent and how to get there. And even for somebody who is as experienced as you with traversing every section of the city, this is a nightmare. It's like, you realize at one point that some of the places, you're like, okay, well, most of the time, like, you could tell when two buildings have kind of been attached horizontally to one another by, like, knocking through a wall or something like that. And there's kind of, like, these unspoken rules that happen with people doing that. It's chaos here. There will just be like, you have a moment where you see somebody just, like, disappear into what you think is, like, a fucking public bathroom. And you just don't see them come out, and you go in there yourself and you see a pathway into another building, and you're just like, fuck me, man. And you realize it's just, like, insane in this part of this part of the city.
She gets pretty frustrated with this.
You do your best, but you find yourself at no other recourse but to simply look into the gadget. This is not going to be a roll. You look around, and the information you get from people is, one, that this device is like nothing they have seen before. The proprietary connector that is at the front of this thing is just not anything people have seen before. It's not something that's, like, in production in a big way. It's not something which is like, oh, this one company likes to do this. This appears to be a fully custom, like, connector, essentially. And that in and of itself tells you that this may very well have been a commissioned device, or is a device which is just not something that's been seen in the city before, and further lends to the idea that this is perhaps a device from outside the city in some way. They confirm that it is very well made, that it is quite high fidelity, the screen, that is. And you do also manage to find a battery that you could hook up to this thing. As with the other connector, however, it is not a perfect fit. What they do confirm is the voltage and ampage, and they get you a battery which has the same values, which would mean that if you can hook it up, it's not going to blow up the device. You are still going to have to do a little bit of soldering yourself in order to get it connected, though.
We have a battery for it, though, but as for the actual connector, she's going to need to, like, basically... She's going to need to finagle something, basically.
Yes. I will give you this additional piece of information. You get lucky at one point where you're kind of searching around in these shops again, and you actually end up walking into a, like, civilian shop as opposed to one which is, like, collector controlled. It's one of those kind of Hail Mary moments where you just go, oh, fuck it, maybe they will know something more, right? And it's this old dude behind a counter, and, like, you realize that the shop itself is maybe... If this didn't have anything in it, there would be enough room for maybe 2 people to stand in it. Instead, there's a tiny little section where the guy is standing, and then the rest of the shop is just, like, stacked components and electricals and everything. It's like this tiny piece of real estate that has been converted into a shop. And you talk to him about it, and he, like, kind of, you know, beckons to, like, have a look at it. And he ends up being one of the better pieces of information that you get, because he brings your attention to a part of the plastic on the front, which you had previously believed was just a differently textured, like, snapped in part of the casing. But he gets a little flashlight and shines it into there, and he's just like, this, I think, is, this has some kind of scanner on the end.
A scanner?
Yeah. He like kind of points it at you so he can like show you what he's seeing, and you see that the light of the torch, when he presses it up against it, it kind of creates, you realize it's got a bit of a one-way mirror effect, where when there's light pouring into it, you can see, like, you know when you look down the end of like a remote on a TV, it's on a TV, sorry, the end of a TV remote, like the glass, like it's like that. And you see that there is not just like one, but like a whole like array of different like lenses and various like focal length things, and a couple of small things which imply that these are in fact designed to scan and to look at different information. Maybe they're cameras, you're not sure. But he goes, I mean, I could probably take it apart and see what exactly those lenses are, but I assume that you are like, you probably want to use this still, and I'm not exactly I'm not exactly familiar enough with this to guarantee I wouldn't damage it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, what you say scanner, what kinds of things would it be scanning?
Hard to say. Scan all sorts of things. I've seen people, I mean, the main ones I see around here are, well, electrical fields, that kind of a thing. Stuff that the collectors like to use. Not that I care.
Well, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, of course. You ever need anything, for home repair? You know where to find me.
She nods, and she would slip him, like, the equivalent of, like, a few dollars for his time, before, heading out.
Yeah, he graciously accepts it, and, you move on. And it rolls around to the end of the day. And you find yourself back at your apartment. Could you tell me, real quick, what is your bloodthirst looking like right now?
Oh boy, that's a good question. My bloodthirst is at 16 out of 26.
Woof, that is pretty notable. You're above half at the moment. So, could you please make me a D10 roll and give me a plus 1 to this, please?
Oh boy, I hope that's good.
Okay. You go to bed for the night. And all of this has been a different level of intense, to say the least. You spent 8 years wondering about what happened. 8 years. About why you had lost your memory. And then 2 years ago, you made enough of a name for yourself that you finally became a dredge. And in all of that time, there was nothing. You finally, only recently, 3 weeks ago at most, at the moment, managed to finally start striking out on your own. The 2-year probation period just kind of flying by. And all of a sudden, all of this information, everything seems to just be cascading one thing after another ever since you were attacked by Elizabeth. And today was the first day, really, where you actually had leads to go out and look for more. As you're in bed, how does that feel?
I think that Vex feels this. Honestly, I think that there's a persistent feeling of guilt associated with her doing this. Or, if not full-on guilt, at least a kind of frivolity and independence that she hasn't experienced in it really at all. Like, only in fits and starts throughout the part of her life that she can remember. The way she even became a dredge in the first place was a stubborn commitment to remaining independent, to never committing, never settling. But even within that, she was always working. She was always doing something for somebody. And I think that she feels excited a little bit, but also very uneasy. Like, part of her can't help but wonder how many calls she's missed, or even knocks on the door that have gone unanswered. All things that are the potential for more jobs, more work, more money. If she's not doing that, then what even is she? And she tries to assure herself that this is something she needs to do, not just something she wants, not just something she's curious about. But it's difficult.
All of that racing through your head. But eventually it calms. Not by virtue of having less to think about, but just by fatigue taking you. It always does eventually. Doesn't matter how anxious you are, how excited you are. And you suddenly feel like you're floating. And your eyes kind of like flutter open. And you see that there's this like dim light above you with a white ceiling that it's mounted into, and you feel this gentle lapping of warm water around you as you feel your hair against your shoulders, against your neck as it floats around. What do you do?
It's hard, but for just a moment, in this trance-like state, she lets herself float away.
Ow! Your head hits the edge of something, and you look around, and it's the edge of the pool. You're in a pool. It's not a leisure pool. You see all of these white tiles in this room. Medical. Mirrors, inexplicably mounted against some of the walls. And there's some stairs up nearby you to get out.
After treading water for a few moments, looking around, she climbs the stairs.
You get out, and you kind of end up wondering a little bit. The nature of the dream kind of strangely just occasionally drifting in and out of control. Sometimes it feels like this is just on a script. Sometimes it feels like you have something to say, something to do. And you kind of stroll past the mirrors. And you see yourself in the mirrors, as you always do. You don't really pay much attention to them. It's not really a reflection you enjoy too much. And you kind of walk out, and it's strangely quiet. There's no one around. You just hear the sound of the dripping water kind of slowly cascading off of you as you dry slowly. You realize now bare feet slapping against the tile softly as you leave. And you open the door and you stride out into one of the hallways, equally as clinical, equally as white and just brightly lit. More brightly lit than the pool was. Maybe they tried to put some kind of semblance of relaxation or ambiance in that particular place, but it never really worked. And you end up wandering for a while. You wander past the other rooms, still no one. You wander past some places that are a little blurry, as if they don't have a form, as if there's just an impression of a room behind them. you wander onto a pathway which feels a lot more solid. And you feel this kind of anxiety and excitement and adrenaline which just lightly electrifies you as you start to walk down it. You feel a light pressure on your hands. On one of your hands. You break out from one of the hallways into this huge, vertical structure. You're on this bridge that's connecting from one side of this giant hole to the other, and you look down and above you and you see that there are all these other bridges at higher and lower levels, kind of creating this strange effect where you can't quite see the top or the bottom. Just bridges. Just like the one you're on. And eventually you pass over it into a new section. A lot more familiar. And you see a door. A door that's plainly painful. Do you walk in?
Her hand starts to move towards the handle, but stops there for a long moment. Her hand shakes. She knows that nothing behind this door can bring her this same drifting peace she's experiencing. She wants to savor it, but she's never been the type of person who keeps her fingers out of trouble. Pain too is a reminder that we're alive, and sometimes part of her even desires it. And moreover, she wants answers. She opens the door.
Your hand touches the metal, and you open the door, and this cascade of sand blasts through the crack. You almost can't stand. It almost knocks you off your feet. You walk through, and suddenly you're running. The sun overhead burning down on you like the brightest light you could have ever imagined. This heat which doesn't come with other lights. You feel the sand beneath your feet. You feel your heart beating. You see a structure in the distance. And you burst through the entrance. And you're in an apartment. It's dark. It's cozy? It's unfamiliar. No, it is familiar. And there's something elucidating about it. There's a joy that alights in you being in here. Books. Rows and rows of books. Paper spread out on various tables. You round the corner, and you see a figure briefly disappear around the corner as well. You follow them, and you're in your apartment. And you see Brimstone sitting on the sofa. You see him rear up to his full height. He's so tall. He's telling you about the Pact of Filth again. You turn around. You enter the kitchen. And instead of a kitchen, you're in a bathroom. Cold, steel, tile. And there's a mirror. It's fogged up, as if someone's just freshly taken a shower. You realize again that you're still wet from the pool. What do you do?
Does the shower seem currently in use, or is it empty?
You turn to your left, and yeah, you remember you turned it on. You kind of just let it run sometimes. And the mirror fogs up as it always does. And that reflection, it's unpleasant, but you know you should look.
She puts her palm against the glass, and she wipes her palm across the water where her face would be.
You put your hand up slowly to it, but then you wipe quickly. And there's hope. Pure white hope. And you hear the door open behind you. And you turn to look. And you see a woman with wavy curled black hair, pale skin, and rusty brown eyes. And she looks at you, confused, as if she's seen a ghost. And you realize you're looking at her the same way, because you're not Hope, you're Vex. Who the hell is that? It's at this point that you hear a door being sharply knocked on, and the two of you, still confused, turn to look at the door. And as you do, the dream fades. In an instant, you wake up and a sharp breath intakes into your lungs against your will. And you're back in reality.
She immediately goes to touch her own face and hair.
Yeah, you're awake. You, it's you. It's you this time. It's you. It's Vex. It's Vex. It's Vex. Hey gang, welcome to the break. Take a second to unwind, relax, and we'll have a little chat and do a little shilling as we always do. I hope you're enjoying it. So, first off, I just wanted to say I feel a little silly for the fact that when we last were talking with Eferai, I just completely neglected to mention the fact that, like, I had put some pins on the map for Iris's sake. It's part of the nature of running a game that has some visual components for Iris, as basic as they are, in comparison to, you know, the fact that I am trying my best to describe everything, just for the sake of, you know, the audience and everything, that there is just a few moments where things fall through the cracks where, like, you know, I distinctly put some things on the map for Iris and had a little discussion with her, I believe straight up out of session afterwards, about like, oh, here are the 3 locations. And I just completely didn't realize that I had done that until, you know, this episode, where I was like, oh, I don't think the audience know that there are these 3 locations. But, hey, you know, one such instance of that in comparison to, you know, the 22 episodes we're now doing, I'd say that's a pretty good track record. But yeah, no, easily fixed. Y'all know what the deal is now with that, so we may as well get straight into our shilling. So, as usual, if you are new here and you are wanting more, you can get hold of the next episode, which is episode 23, right now, if you support me on Patreon. That's right, for as little as $1 a month, you can support me on Patreon and get episode 23 right now. Even if you support for just that minimum amount of $1, you will still get that. Though, if you want to be super cool and send me some more money on a monthly basis, you can do that. But even that $1 is more than enough to get hold of that extra content. And that's over on patreon.com/eternal_savvy. Again, that is eternal_savvy. Speaking of that very same name, if you want to see any of my extra content, which isn't Heart of Hope, then you can jump onto my Twitch streams, which is also at eternal_savvy, just at twitch.tv instead. I do art streams, I do video game streams, and also, soon enough, we're going to have another TTRPG running as well, which is going to be a live-streamed game, rather than this properly fancy edited-down one, if you are more of a live play type of guy or gal, or they, and, yeah, no, if you want to see my posts, whether that be art or just keeping up with Heart of Hope over on Blue Sky, you can also do so over at Blue Sky, at the same of eternal_savvy. Pretty much the only place the name different is my YouTube VOD channel, which is staying_savvy. If you want to support me on a one-time basis, if you can't do Patreon's monthly thing, then you can also find me at Eternal_Savvy over on Ko-Fi if you just want to send a one-time donation just to help me out. And if you want to know what the money is going towards, well, we have a direct thing that I have been putting the money towards, which is making the show notably better. I have been commissioning human composers and artists for new music and also the logo of this show right at the beginning. But we have new tracks coming in, semi-regularly now, thanks to the money that you are supporting me with over on Patreon. We've managed to get 2 new tracks recently from the wonderful Angra and Whoops, which you have heard both of in this episode. So if you are supporting me, you are not only supporting me, but other human artists will be getting that support as well. And of course, if you want to, or if you have any fan art for us, like you are seeing on the screen at this point if you're listening on YouTube, then you can pitch that over to me you can send that over to me over on Blue Sky or on my Discord server in the fan art channel, and that will go up on the carousel with your acts and everything if you are one of those awesome people. Thank you everyone who has already submitted the art. And thank you everyone for listening in general. I super appreciate that you guys are so enthusiastic about the show. Tell your friends, keep telling your friends, comment on YouTube, like, subscribe. If you're on the RSS feeds, rate it and download it. It all really, really helps out to get the word out about this show. Thank you so much. We'll get right back because I've been yammering a lot today. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. You hear, once again, the knocking against your door, the sharp rapping of knuckle against steel and plastic and paint. It's an unfamiliar one, though. It's not like brimstones, which are big and thudding and heavy, and
it's not like Brimstone throwing a grenade into my apartment, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you just hear from the other side, just an unfamiliar voice, just, Vex, is this your apartment? Are you in there? Oh, come on.
Momentary sharpness takes over her as she's roused and kind of hissing deep breaths. Give me a damn minute. She gets up and starts looking around. What time is it?
It's like early-ish morning, like 8:30ish.
Later than she usually sleeps, so she gets up, gets around. She doesn't have like pajamas or anything, but probably still needs to don a few of her other garments, like her cloak, adjusting some of her bandages and so forth, before, after a couple of minutes, she... Does her apartment door have a, peephole?
Yeah, it does.
She'd look through.
Yeah, you see, standing on the other side is, there's a brief moment where you're like, Eferai? Because you just see the silhouette of 2 cat ears, right? And then you kind of like blearily like rub the sleep out of your eyes a bit and focus in a bit, and you're like, no, that's not him. It's this fairly wide set guy. But he like definitely has the same ears as Eferai, and you see that he's also got like the cat eyes as well. And you see he's just kind of like stood there a little exasperated, kind of like waiting for a response from you. It's like hard to explain, but if you didn't know any better, you would say that this man is somehow related to him. He's got like the same shade of hair.
She takes that in for a moment before too delirious and freshly awake to come up with anything better, just unlocks the door and cracks it open, opening it as she would for any other inquiring customer. She's probably visibly shaken a little bit, her hair plastered to her head in strange places, but she's practiced enough at this that she gives him her usual cold stare.
Yeah, you open the door, you see him, and he just goes, right, you are Vex, right?
The very same. Who are you?
My name's not important. I was sent here by Eferai, in case this wasn't a dead giveaway. He like points to his ears tiredly.
Checks out, I guess. She takes a few steps back in a silent gesture of allowing him inside.
You let him walk in, and he goes, yeah, I've been sent to give you a message, because he, I don't know what his whole deal is, but he apparently has been wrapped up in a bunch of stuff lately that none of us have really... He gets like this sometimes. He just gets like so focused on a thing, and then he just ends up focusing on it to the detriment of everything else.
You know, I'm pretty sure he has my email.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's, he kind of looks to the side. He's an exceedingly nervous individual, you can tell. But he goes, I've been working with the guy long enough that I know that he probably didn't even want to spend the 20 minutes going back to one of his bases to send you the email, because he was so focused. So he just sent me.
Alright. Well, sit down if you want.
No, this is gonna be easier if I'm standing when I start this. He reaches up to, like, the back of his own head, kind of, like, pulling aside some of his, hair, and you see that embedded into his skull is a cybernetic. As, he kind of, like, looks to you and he just goes, prepare to see one of the, more uncanny things that you've probably seen.
Trust me, I should be fine.
He just kind of like shrugs, and you see him flick a switch on the back of his head. You watch as after he flicks the switch, his eyes briefly roll back into his head, as he, for a brief moment, his limbs kind of like straighten out and tense, as if like something is kicking, some like internal system inside of him is like calibrating. As all of a sudden, he kind of looks to you, and this smile peels across his face, in the way that only Eferai does, and his eyes go like wide, like a cat who has like seen something interesting, and you see his arms and legs start to swing around in this very like puppeteered motion, which is extremely uncanny. And you hear his voice kind of, just screech for a moment as you hear, like, an internal cybernetic turn on, and you hear the, like, kind of slightly garbled tone of, Eferai's voice, coming from this man, as he just goes, hello, Vex. I'm afraid I didn't have the time, or, well, I'm not gonna pretend I didn't have the time. I'm just really in this right now, and I don't want to spend the time. I'm still in Foundling territory. I'm still doing what you asked, and I just happen to have a lot of free time today. So, I wanted to ask you to come on by and maybe help me out. There's a couple things in Foundling territory which may be of interest to you, and also some information I want to give you, which is, And he kind of pouts and puts a finger to his mouth and goes, not the kind of thing that I can really repeat in a recording. Security, that kind of a thing. Anyway, looking forward to seeing you. Be sure not to keep me waiting. You know I'm not much of a patient person. And, you see as his eyes once again, like, focus in, and his limbs kind of, like, lose that puppeteered-like quality as he kind of, like, grabs his head, slightly in pain, as he's like, ugh. I don't know why he insists on doing it like that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Right, I can, like... Hold on. You got, like, something I can write down on, or do you have a good memory?
She just grabs a sticky note and, a pen, hands it to him.
He takes it and he writes down a location. You actually know this place decently. It is indeed in the part of the city which you sent him off to investigate. And it's like near enough to the neutral zone border and actually near enough to Stitches that like you actually have a very good mental map of that particular part. You could get that toot sweet if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she would, as soon as this guy leaves, presuming he has nothing else to say, she would just start getting ready to head over.
Yeah. He like takes a second to write it down, hands it back to you. And it's just like, if it's all right with you, I'm not gonna join you on the way. I would like to get a drink, and please don't tell him that I'm skiving, if that's all right.
I don't tell him anything I don't need to.
Love a drench. Inexplicable emotion behind that statement. And he just leaves and assumedly goes off to some dive bar. But yeah, in due time, you make your way over, and you see that he has basically directed you to what is, in essence, kind of like an everything hangout spot. It's not like a restaurant, it's not a pub, it's not a bar, it's not an arcade, it's just kind of a little of everything. It's the kind of spot which only really thrives if you have a lot of random people coming in all of the time, and in somewhere like Foundling territory in Hope's Fall, people are not hard to come by, especially in hive blocks. You kind of see that there is this general bustle of like kind of morning, you know, people getting to work in the morning, that kind of a thing. It's not, you know, rammed or anything. It's not the evening. Not that you can really tell the difference with everything built on top of one another. You weirdly, for 1 or 2 weeks, actually found yourself kind of spending a lot of time in the few open areas of the city. First there was the ditch where you fought Elizabeth, then there was, you know, the Grow Tower and like all of that jazz, and like the rooftops. It's been like a strangely refreshing journey, and it's kind of turned around at this point. There is zero sunlight in these parts of the city that you've been looking around. Completely reliant on artificial lighting. And, you know, you haven't even like begun to get your bearings of the place before you feel a clawed hand curl over your shoulder from behind you.
With... I think literally without turning around, with she just like brings up her arm behind her, not to like, not like hard, not to like punch him, but enough to just like swat in the vague direction of his face, you know?
He, like fully no flinch. He is just like staring at you with that giant toothy grin as always. You go to like do the swat, he doesn't move, and he just goes, come on, you've got to be a little bit more serious than that. I mean, I could have been someone unsavory.
She grabs his hand, moves it off of her shoulder, and turns around. So what have you found so far?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me apologize for having to send one of my wonderful little kittens to go and give you the message. I've just been too, caught up in everything. What? What's wrong?
Nothing. Let's just get to business. I'm out of it today.
Why would that be?
Trouble sleeping, you know how it is.
He narrows his eyes a little bit in interest. And just goes,
No. I sleep well every night. Anyway.
He kind of leads you in a little bit as you see him kind of like wave a hand over to one of the people behind the bar? Counter? Kind of both. And seemingly they know what that means as they kind of bring over just like some snacks and some other like accoutrement and drinks and stuff like that. They set it down and you kind of you take a look. There's the kind of standard like spread of mushroom jerky and some of the simpler leafy greens which you can grow in grow towers in with like some dressing of some form, small noodle dishes, and oh yeah, of course, the foundling mystery meat, which is always definitely human. Steer clear of that one. And you sit down as Eferai very swiftly and deftly, with no hesitation at all, picks up one of the little skewers and just starts chomping into it. And he just goes,
Now I assume you hadn't had breakfast yet, but I won't dilly-dally with small talk. Let's just get into the thick of it. I had a little bit of a look around, and from what I can tell, Foundling Crete territory is dicey at best as to whether it's here. The buildings around here in particular have been a little worse for wear. But there's some of the older ones still. It's just that I haven't seen a lot of brass intact, at least. I don't know whether it's something that's used frequently in weaponry or if they're smelting that stuff down, but if it is here, I'd need probably another day or two in order to confirm exactly that there's definitely nothing here. But that's a point of order. You know, to the south there's that takeover that's happening.
You kind of recall that there was something going on with that.
Yeah, so, turns out this place is a bit of a clusterfuck right now. Foundling have been pushing into the Section C territory for a while now, and it looks like it's not going to stop anytime soon. Whoever was holed up there was doing a good job of destabilizing the border. I suspect that things are going to be changing in a big way in a moment, but we'll have to wait and see. Watch your step around this part of town is what I'm saying.
Sounds to me like we should finish up our search here today and get out.
Which is you're smart cookie. That's exactly why I called you here. I thought it would be good if we just tied everything up in a neat little bow together, and then we don't have to deal with any weirdos having fights in the middle of all of this. But there was a little something that I wanted to push your way.
He takes another bite and another drink as he kind of pulls out some of the photos of your diary. And he goes,
You know I can't help myself. I've been poring over these pretty much every single night. And I discovered a little something. It's not the cipher or anything, don't get excited. But there was a pattern that I didn't really understand before.
He pulls up a couple of pages that have a bunch of like fucking fevered like red marker notes all over it. And you see that there is a little like pattern cipher code that he's been putting together himself in the bottom corner. And he goes, there's a pattern to the names which indicates that not all of them are... How do I put this? Not all of them seem to be in the same category. As in, I think some of these names are part of the cipher system, part of the code, the information that you might get. But there's some of these names, and he kind of like pulls up another photo, and he goes, some of them act as roots. Whenever a name shows up that's from this kind of a idea, the root name, I suppose I should put it, that's when the other ones start showing up. There's always one of these names that starts an entry before any of the other ones are talked about. I think that some of these names are actually names. Probably code names, but actually names. And he kind of taps a claw on the bottom corner of this one where there's more notes. And he goes, you might get far if you start throwing around a couple of these code names. And there is 5 names. Lily, Sesame, Mulberry, Holly, and perhaps most notably, Olivia.
Vex's eyes subtly widen upon reading the last name in particular.
You had known that this name was in here for a while now, and you had already clocked when you found that name carved into the table that you were like, oh, that's in the book, right? That is a name in the book. And then you had this kind of like moment where it's like, oh, okay, so it's a piece of code from the book because, like, you know, Eferai confirmed that there's some kind of cipher. And now it seems that it's both. It seems that it is simultaneously a piece of code or something, but it seems to be a direct code name for a person that you were talking about in this diary of yours. And he goes, any of these ring a bell?
I saw one of those names in particular on when I was with Nyx.
Interesting. On account of the memories, by the way. You know what? No. Why don't we get this squared away first?
And he kind of puts the stuff away. Kind of scoffs a bit more of the food. And he goes,
I have another little bit of info that I'd like to tell you about. The thing in question that I said is not to be recorded.
Sure. She leans in a bit closer.
But I'm worried that if we tell you about it straight away, if I tell you about it straight away, you're just gonna run off and leave me all alone in order to do this wrapping of this job. Not that I'm not happy to.
I don't leave jobs unfinished.
That's what I like to hear.
You, on that frustrating note of not being told what the information is, spend the day wrapping up what's going on in Foundling territory. And with the 2 of you going at it, you bump that 1 day of investigation up to 3. The effect here was basically, if you had gone here alone, that there was a chance that you could actually end up damaging parts because you would have gotten caught up in the territory dispute. But since there's 2 of you, and people aren't really in the mood to fuck with 2 dredge, you can bypass that. You confirm, with 3 days of investigation on this location, that it is not here, for certain. You end up trudging through as much as you can manage, and sure enough, you hit a point where you are covering the same ground you have been for a bit now. Thankfully, the fact that this place has apparently seen more damage than the other 2 locations has made this the quickest location to pin down. So I'll remove it from the map. You are wrapping up as Eferai kind of like, acknowledges a job well done. It's reaching the end of the day. It's just been a lot of, investigating, a lot of looking around, all of that jazz. As he turns to you, and he goes, right. Good to have that squared away. Now, puts a clawed hand on your shoulder, pulls you away. I am distinctly aware of the fact that you have memory troubles. And I don't know if I mentioned this, by which I mean I know I mentioned this. I'm exceedingly impatient, and I want to know the answers. So, I decided that I'm going to let you in on a little secret about one of our fellow dredges. But I want to make something very fucking clear. This is not a service that you let drop to just anyone. Is that clear?
She nods.
Good. If I find out that someone has been bothering our good friend Lotus about these kinds of things who I didn't inform, I will expect answers. And there is a flash of, that predatory danger in his eyes for just a second. Before he, kind of goes back to his calm demeanor, a little bit more loosened up, and just goes, but you're a dredge, so I'll trust your word. Lotus is one of the dredges that you are no doubt aware of. I don't know if you've met her, but she runs Nevermore alongside her sister. The two of them are quite a useful little duo, on account of the fact that her sister Quoth? I've never really bothered to learn which one it is. But Quoth is quite well known for being able to abduct just about anyone. And you might think, oh, that doesn't seem particularly related to Lotus, on account of the fact that Lotus runs what is ostensibly a brothel. Respectable business, I should add. Very nice there. I'd recommend it if you want to get a little bit of R&R. But the thing they don't tell you, and the thing that they keep under wraps, is that same technology which they can use for the cybernetic hookups, the experiences that can play back in your mind, and he leans in conspiratorially at this point, and he goes, she has ways to get information out of people by force, which happen to relate to stimulating the brain.
She scratches her chin a bit, looking down. So you're saying this can dredge up memories, theoretically, even if someone doesn't remember them?
Theoretically. I'm not the doctor, though. Well, she isn't either, but she basically is one. I'm not the brain surgeon, I suppose is probably the more accurate way to put it. It's not my specialty. I actually go to her for a couple of my own purposes.
I don't need to hear about those.
Oh.
She waves a hand.
Don't you? And he smiles mischievously and just goes, but no. In this particular occasion, it's why I know about these little secret services of hers in the first place. I pay good money for them. Information is not always forthcoming with certain people. And as an info broker, well, you have to understand, if this lets slip to anyone else who's in the business of information, well, it's not as if it's going to ruin me or something, but I'm not going to enjoy having to hunt down and tear the throats out of a bunch of scrubs.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Great!
If this kind of thing really is possible... She taps her foot a couple of times. Well, I don't like how much I've been leaning on the other dredges lately, but... I mean, that does seem like a hell of a good place to start with this.
Listen, we dredges have to stick together. And Brimstone would certainly like us to lean on each other more, so why not please the boss, right?
Right. Okay, well, since you've told me this, not only will I promise to keep it a secret, but I'll give you a few more pieces of information and a direction I'd like you to go next, if that's fine.
Oh, absolutely. What'd you have for me? You've been holding out?
Oh, you know I can't give it all away right off the bat. That wouldn't be fun, right?
You see him genuinely a little pissed at you from this and just goes,
Water under the bridge. You better be telling me everything this time, though.
Everything as it pertains to what we're trying to do. She then explains to him a bit more about... She still doesn't go into all of the nitty-gritty details, but she's gonna explain a bit more about certain things. She first explains that yesterday she was in collector territory and that it was this horrible labyrinth, and that it might be good for him to check that out if she's going to be heading to Section C tomorrow anyway. And that she also says that he might even want to bring a little help with how labyrinthine and confusing it is. But that the other reason she was checking out collector territory was to try and figure out more about this gadget and this disc she has, and trying to get more of the information out of it. And she would essentially explain that the disc seems to highly pertain to Section C and the kind of work they do. She would mention that there's some kind of either organization or business or company within it called Atrium that is doing this experimental medical shit that she believes might have something to do with her missing memories, and all of that, and that basically, she wants to go to Section C to both try to search for the apartment there, more thoroughly, as well as to try to investigate more about this Atrium place. And that she can potentially mention the names that he gave her as part of this, as part of this, quote-unquote shakedown of the territory she's going to be doing. On top of that, she would also bring to attention, I don't think Vex herself would remember this all, exactly. It was a while ago. She was remembering this at this point, and it was a dream and so on, but she would at least mention the details about the other apartments, how a couple of them seems to be destroyed, how one of them seemed to be painted differently, one had a number missing. She would say that she's not 100% sure if that is accurate, especially considering that it was probably a long time ago that the apartment was in that state, and also who knows if the memory is 100% photographic anyway, but she would at least bring it up as potential patterns to look for while he's looking at collector territory.
He hungrily and attentively listens to all of this information. Atrium in particular, you see him get this weird, it's hard to describe. It goes from his normal, business, horrible, shitty business grin, where he's just kind of plastering it onto his face to be creepy and to, for appearances, that kind of a thing. You think for the first time, you see him kind of getting sucked into this in a way that you actually see this curiosity and this smirk, which is the real him. The person who revels in a mystery, who revels in playing games, in finding out information he's not meant to know, in, knowing things that are valuable and things that people want secret. And you see that he really did get into this line of work because he is just like fully within himself someone who values like knowledge and truth, and even if that means being a shitty cat boy about it, that is like his whole thing. It is a odd moment seeing him just genuinely being like an attentive regular person while listening to you, but he notes it all down. He takes a second and he goes, "This is a lot that you were holding out on, but I appreciate it. I've already got a million different theories in my head that are brewing, and oh, god damn it, I have a bunch of things that I already have to be doing, but I really want to be working on." The point is, and he grabs you on both shoulders all of a sudden, kind of shocking you a little bit. He goes, "Thank you. I don't think I've had this much fun investigating something in a long while. Things usually dredge up pretty quickly in hopes rise when you put pressure in the right places, so this is a refreshing change of pace." Oh. He, kind of thinks for a second, and he goes, "That's a fair point. I would be irresponsible to just set you loose and go to Nevermore on your own. Mainly on account of the fact that I'm pretty sure that Lotus is going to have my fucking head for the fact that I just told you that free of charge. And that includes you, most likely, as well. I mean, she probably wouldn't do anything drastic, but it's not going to be a good first impression if you waltz through the door with nothing to say other than give me what I want. Don't you agree?"
She nods.
"Fortunately, I happen to have a little bit of information which will help you make a good impression."
He puts a arm around your shoulders like, you know, good buds, good friends, and goes,
"I mentioned her sister, Quath. Well, she happens to be on a job right now. And she just so happened to have needed my services to find a specific someone that she's taking, if you catch my drift. And that was something I was happy to provide for a nominal fee, of course, so I happen to know exactly where she is at this moment, carrying out that job."
He tells you about like a specific hive block, which is actually pretty much directly south of here, on the direct border between Foundling Creed and Section C. This hex in particular on the map.
"If you want to make a good impression, first of all, be nothing but understanding and caring towards Lotus's dear sister, Quath. She's quite fond of her. And two, well, helping her out with a job that's been proving a little bit tough, well, I can't think of a better way to make a good impression."
Sounds fine with me, I suppose. I'm used to being the muscle.
"Great. And, make sure..."
He puts a little something in your hand, which is a little box, which is sealed up with a little bow, and goes,
"She's probably not going to be very happy with me. So tell her this is from me. Free of charge. Gift. I'll get out of your hair, and you'll get out of mine, so that I can start taking care of business and getting into the weeds over in collector territory. Sound good?"
One more thing.
"Sure."
Since you were dangling a carrot on a stick for me, I'll do the same for you. After this is over, or if it becomes very important, I'll show you what's on that disc, all of the nitty-gritty specifics to it. I don't know exactly what all you'd get out of it, but I'll show it to you in the interest of not keeping any more secrets. But, she holds up a finger, some of the shit on here is just like you're doing for your dear friend Lotus. I expect not a word of this to anyone, especially no one who asks, but not even to your little messenger network or anything. It would just be between us if I show this to you. I will if you really, really think it's going to be relevant to this shit, but I don't know right now. I don't say this lightly when I say it's some gritty stuff.
Can you make me a conversation check with a +2, please? Ah, unlucky. You do not get to clear a point of blood first. But he looks to you, and I'm going to tell you right now that roll was not to see if he actually listens to you. He is listening to you. This has been a long enough conversation.
No,
I wanted to give you that roll. But he looks and he goes, Vex, you're shaping up to be one of my favorite people in the city. And I know that I don't often sound genuine. It's kind of hard for me. But I do mean it. I'll be happy to see whatever you want to show me. There is a more pleasant smile on his face.
She nods and, feeling a bit awkward now at his reaction, says, "Wow, give me a while to decide whether that's a good thing or not."
Well, I'm not going to waste any more time. Sayonara.
Later.